life before COVID-19 compared to life now. I want to inform my audience about my feelings and thoughts about how the world was just 3 months ago compared to how it is now, and the process that I went through in accepting and coming to understand how it is now. Giving change a try and a chance and to see the bright side of a situation can turn out beneficial for anyone. Who would have ever thought just 4 months ago that we would be spending this much of our time being concerned about a virus, wearing masks, getting our temperature taken, and being asked a series of questions before going to the doctor or many other places? Who would have thought the little things that we took for granted, such as going to work, going to school, going to church, and going on family outings, would become so hard or so difficult to do, or we would have to find new ways to do them? All of us remember how we first felt when hearing about COVID-19. I, like many of you, now carry an array of items in my car to keep myself and my family safe. To stop the spread of COVID-19, we've all had to change how we spend our time and how we do things. Change can affect our feelings, making us worried and anxious. The feelings of stress, fear, panic, and even obsessiveness have been plaguing many, including myself, over the last several months. More so in the beginning. I feel now that we're becoming more adjusted and even appreciating our new way of life. The first stage I went through beginning mid-March was the panic and fear stage. Then came the overzealous germaphobe stage that lasted all of April. Finally, after the germaphobe phase, I would say from mid-April all the way through May was a time that I began to see the beauty in, began to appreciate different things, and began to accept the new way of life. I will begin discussing stage 1, which was mid-March through the end of March. Stage 1 was the panic mode. The world as we know it began to change, and it was natural to panic. I personally didn't have the worry that many had, worrying where my next paycheck was coming from working in healthcare. Where my panic came in was worrying about how I was going to provide for my kids. I remember being at work and all the stores running out of things, and I was worried, what am I going to do? How am I going to get things for my kids to eat for the next week while I'm going to have to be at work? I ended up making it to the store. I got some things. It wasn't our usual grocery items, but we made do, and they were happy. As time went on, we found the ways to make use of limited supplies. We worked next to a Kroger, so coworkers and I would take turns going at 6 in the morning when they first woke up and getting things for each other. Excuse me. Another point of panic for me was my kids leaving and going to stay with their dad. They went to stay with their dad as he wasn't working and I was working in healthcare. It was better for him to do the homeschool, and we felt it was safer for him to have the kids while I was exposed to older people and things like that for a while. And I was really not used to not having my kids. I felt alone and isolated when I wasn't at work. I had friends that I saw on social media being stuck at home all day, and I wondered how they were doing it. I felt bad after just one weekend being inside and not really being allowed to go anywhere unless necessary. For the first time ever, I was home alone and I hated it. I missed my kids so much I thought I would never get used to the kids being gone. I ended up with a new dog, big homie at this point in life. Now that I've discussed the panic stage, we'll move on to the overzealous germaphobe stage. Fear of COVID-19 and being cautious caused me to feel like a lonely, isolated germaphobe the whole month of April. At work, we've been constantly having to wear these masks. I'm still at work now. Many of my coworkers and the dialysis techs and nurses had to wear them all the time when on the treatment floor with patients, but it was different for me to get used to wearing them in the office. I always used hand sanitizer after making contact with patients, but we amped it up. Anytime we had them sign anything, anytime we touched their bag or moved a wheelchair, I used hand sanitizer so much that my hands began to peel. I also had to start to be at work from open and close. Open for us is 4:30 in the morning and close is sometimes as late as 7 p.m. And had to be in the front taking temperatures, so even more multitasking than what I was doing before. It was all really hard for me at first. I used to go to bed at midnight and wake up at 6, and now I have to go to bed at by 10 to get up at 3:30. I began to get used to everything that was new for me, enjoy and make the best of it. I began to get my kids only on the weekends and began to enjoy being a weekend mom. Working sometimes for 14 hours a day, it was nice to just have to come home and worry about myself. My daughters have become very close, and I notice that they never fight anymore. Sitting on the couch watching church in our pajamas has become the new, nice, comfortable norm. Family time is now spent outdoors crabbing rather than going to the movies or main event. Hopefully, everyone can now look and find some positive aspects of the changes that they've had to make. I've told you about the phases I went through with COVID-19. The initial adjustment phase to the changes in life with COVID-19 were rough, but after some time, they've been blessings in disguise. Hopefully, you can find the blessings in disguise in your life as well. We never would have thought this would be life, but it's not so bad after all, once adjusted. My advice to everyone is to let go, give a chance, and you will possibly find joy in what at first seemed impossible.